Good morning, Eleanor.
Good morning, Dale. How are you?
You are breaking my heart. This is Coffee on the Cove, and I am now aware that you are not a coffee drinker. So we're going to have to do something else. What would you like to drink? We have a choice. We are going to be doing an interview with Eleanor on the Cove in our studio. It's called Coffee on the Cove. We're going to be doing these regularly with different people. Eleanor is an actor and a model. We've done a lot of shoots with her. So she is our first interviewee for Coffee on the Cove, and we're just going to talk about stuff. We're going to look at the industry. We're going to talk about how she works as a model, as an actor. So this is the first episode. I hope you enjoy it. It was a lot of fun to film, and we have more to come on this. It's quite long, not 60 seconds for sure, but Eleanor is a wonderful person, so do check her out on her various social platforms and look at some of the other shoots that we've done with her. There is a 60-second cinematography featuring Eleanor on shooting vertically, which we've actually just launched. So that is the perfect accompaniment to this episode of Coffee on the Cove. Do you want a focus, boost, decaffeinated green tea? It's practically water.
Do you know, I'm going to go with the lemon, ginger, and honey.
This one?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. That's okay, we can do that. I think that you have bought something there to soften the blow of having to be a tea drinker. Lemon.
A lemon
drizzle. Okay, lemon. There's a theme going on.
Flavours will complement each other.
Hopefully so. I'm going to have a.
And you're going to have a.
I'm going to have a black coffee. I'm just going to make sure that the coffee is still represented somewhat. I do get to use the flashy.
I'm so envious. I've always wanted one of those caps. Very bougie. I love it.
Yeah, I'm constantly terrified that I'm going to forget and just rinse my fingers under it. In fact, I have actually once done that. Well, that was easy. There's going to be a bit of pantomime and theatre now with this because I'm going to make myself a coffee and...
Yeah, I've never been a coffee drinker, but I always loved the smell of coffee. You know, I asked a friend who wanted to meet up, like, do you want to go for a coffee? I would say coffee, but I actually never drink coffee.
Do you eat lemon drizzle cake with your fingers, or would you like a fork like the Queen?
Oh, no, I'll go into it with my fingers. Thank you.
Awesome. Do not forget that you opted for that when we're in the middle of talking and you got sticky fingers. And...
It's all right.
Oh, you got a biscuit already?
I've got a biscuit here already. And if
got
I'm
textures.
Desperate for a biscuit, I'll run over here and grab the whole plate.
I think that would be nice partway through. So I think 2009 was your first shoot.
Yeah, it was. That was at school.
Really?
I think. Yeah, that's sort of when the tickle for modelling began. I think it was someone from the photography/media sort of department at school. And we're looking for a model, and asked me to do it, and yeah, jumped at the opportunity. I was just like going for it. My mum was a ballerina, and that's how she met my dad, because he's a bassoon player, and they met at the opera house where they both worked. So my life was very much always involved in theatre and in the opera house, and I remember always going backstage with mum and dad sometimes as well, and it just sort of opens up your eyes, and you sort of get an insight into this creative world where everyone's sort of doing their own thing, but they all come together and produce these amazing productions, you know. I think really made me want to do the same, and initially in ballet, and that's what I sort of trained in, and then
And as you grew up, you did that shoot, did you find yourself gravitating more towards things that weren't within the classical space?
I think what pushed me further away from ballet was my illness. I have chronic fatigue syndrome, and I was diagnosed with that in 2007. And so from that point, like throughout school, I had to go part-time at school and only do sort of like the essential classes, but I also had to drop out of my sort of extracurricular stuff and all of my physical things, so ballet, modern, gymnastics, all of that was sort of dropped. And I think it was through that then I sort of had to think, well, what else is there for me to do creatively? Like, what else am I interested in? And acting popped up And then I started doing both acting at school. So I don't think I did GCSE drama, but I did it from year 7 to year 9.
I find that really interesting. You might have had a trajectory which you had to adjust, and it's finding something which you can do which gives you the same or a version of the gratification. I think I could say gratification that you get doing something artistic and expressing yourself that way. I hadn't realised you'd come up through ballet, so obviously you have every lesson someone telling you how to do a certain thing, and that in the nicest possible way.
Giving you like a checklist of check this. Like
But it's that constant feedback of being conscious of what you're doing, being conscious that you're being watched, and then having to adjust. And that is modelling, that is acting. How is it different when you're doing, and you have done a lot of moving image work from stills?
In stills, it's a lot more still, but you sort of you're placed into your environment of where they want to take the picture, and then you're moving within sort of exactly in that realm. Whereas if you're working with moving imagery, for example, they're not always, but there is an element of you having to obviously move into different areas of space.
Maybe what you enjoy more now.
What I enjoy more, I think. Moving image is a lot more engaging, I think, definitely for me. I think it's harder to create a still image that gets as much or as quick attention from other people. Like, there's a lot more to moving imagery.
The films that you've worked on, there is maybe a little theme of horror coming in with a few of them.
Yeah.
I guess the vibe on the set has got to be very different from what the vibe in the final shots is, because you're not going to be there constantly on tenterhooks. But how do you approach that as a genre? Is it all just fun and games on the set and everyone's having a great time?
Yeah.
Great. I want to do one.
That's what I always try and bring to the table. I think the last horror that I filmed was Better Than You, by Matthew D. Gilpin. And
feels very personal when you sat across from me saying that.
It's like Better Than You. We had so much fun filming that. I think we filmed it over 2 days. And you'll know as well as I that when you're working on set, like there are things that happen that everyone will just sort of, just remember, and like it'll always be that one thing that people go back to, and then if it happens again, and because you're working long hours as well, like you go through
like
the
a group of friends, isn't it? You have your in-jokes and your You got to play 2 characters essentially in that. As an actor, were you looking at what the other person was doing and trying to change from your character into that character, but still having the outward appearance of you?
I was trained in the Meisner technique, and in that technique we have something called the given set of circumstances, and this is what sort of describes your situation, rather your character's situation. And so in that scenario, I think I focused less on Darius, who's my the other actor in the film. I focused less on his like specific mannerisms or anything like that, but more on the essence of what he brought into the character, and then tried to carry that through.
When you're going out onto shoots then, what is useful as an actor to have as feedback from a director? What makes it easier to pull out an emotion or get into a character's head?
Rather than telling them what emotion they have to feel, describe the situation, or paint a picture. It doesn't have to be something that's specific to create that specific emotion, like crying, for example. And if we're talking Meisner technique, we have something that's called preparations. And in those preparations, you can do a physical, a imaginary, or a preparation based on memory. When you do one of these preparations, what it does is it opens you up emotionally, so that when you're then going into the scene, you are able to allow whatever happens moment to moment to affect you, to have an effect on you. And what you'll find is that through your given set of circumstances, the emotion that comes up matches the emotion that the director wants you to experience. So it's sort of this methodology of preparations, given set of circumstances, that sort of all pull together and then allow you to just express what naturally comes up.
Sure. So it's something that isn't a random example.
Yeah.
We have done a shoot where we've asked you to cry.
Yeah.
Um,
And for that I
it-
use preparations
Yeah.
and music for that.
That's
Yeah.
right. I remember you were listening to things.
Yeah.
And was that part of the memory pulling?
Yeah, so I mean, I think on that shoot as well, because we had to do quite a few takes, there's like little different, sort of strings that you have on your bone depending on what's working. You flick that string, maybe that's not working, you flick the other one.
It's a guitar.
Yeah, so
it's a
exactly,
short scale length.
yeah, you
Parlor
just need
size,
one
maybe.
hand for that guitar
Yeah.
as well.
Maybe
so.
even a baritone ukulele, I don't know.
So, yeah, the point was not so much that this piece of music was going to make me cry, but it brought me into a place of being emotionally open and available so that I could then just allow the situation, which was
Of course.
boyfriend had broken up with me and
Yes.
it was devastating. That then allowed me to have the for
We're gonna
for the
drop
scene.
this in potentially
Yeah.
as well here, and some of the behind the scenes, because it is. I'm working directing on that, and I always try to work out what the actor may need in any given circumstance to get to that point.
Yeah.
So, a character that maybe I've written doesn't just need to have the stuff that's in the script that they say at that point. They may need the backstory
Yeah.
of how they got to that point, because otherwise you just say cry, your boyfriend's broken up with you. But it was more complicated than that, because you're on your phone to the friend and the friend is saying, it's always like this. There's more.
Yeah.
There is, which may seem excessive first coming into this, to give it that fleshed out, but it can be helpful.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any details that you're given or that you have available to you are crucial. And I think, like you said as well, like, ooh, you just had a thought.
I've just had you saw it flicker into my eyes. I wouldn't be good at poker. I think you'll enjoy this.
Yeah.
I'm going to go off on an anecdote. I heard a thing, perfect time for a cake break. Quentin Tarantino, I can't remember who he heard this from, but someone mentioned to him that Robert De Niro, when he's looking at a role, something that he really likes to get into is what the character wears and how that affects their whole attitude to life. So if he can latch on to an item of clothing, or like shoes, in this example it's shoes, that really gets him going and it will make him invested in the role. He loves to hear, this is one of his, maybe it's a similar method thing. He then can start to think, oh yeah, he's like this and this is how he works. And he says all of this stuff, that this is your character, this is what he's doing, and he's been in prison. And he's been in prison and his clothes, civilian clothes, have been at the bottom of a locker, like pushed down, and his shoes all bent up, and and he comes out and that's all he's got. He's got the shirt on his back and these shoes, and one of them's completely folded and like uncomfortable. And
I bet they're really nice dress shoes as well.
And that hooked him. He said, and it was that thing that managed to draw him into think, oh yeah, I could get into this character. Because I just love the idea that he might not have done the role.
Yeah.
But for that small detail, which in the final film, sure, maybe I can't remember, you see a bit of that, but it's incident. The film could exist and not have any reference to that, and maybe it does, I can't quite remember. But that's what got him into the mindset for the rest of the things, that so much off screen.
It's amazing, isn't it?
So on the shoots that we've worked on, we have asked you to do crazy things and got you out. I hadn't even met you, but you had worked with Spencer and done photography shoots. So we weren't a completely unknown quantity.
Yeah.
When you came out into the middle of a field in the middle of the night, in the rain, turned up, and we're just there. I'm not saying that people should go out and do that, with people
Why
they
not?
don't know.
Well, yeah, maybe that.
But what do you think when you roll out into, I don't want to say it was a shit show.
It
but
wasn't.
The fire wasn't working. We were meant to have a huge fire.
Yeah.
It was this massive fire and it was going to be cool and, you know,
Yeah.
in the end it was a couple of smoke grenades, pelting rain and Eleanor, just feel it, do something.
Like,
And you did a great job
do
of,
it.
you know, just bringing
Yeah.
in something. What I don't know if I've asked you what you were thinking to get to the point where you did something and made it work.
When we were actually filming, I didn't really notice the cold at all. I was just in the moment and enjoying it and loving it and doing what I did. And then I think between takes, some multiple blankets came running over, and I think I was just thinking, I'm cold. Yeah, I'm cold. I've got goosebumps. That's okay. And then just have conversation and just sort of wrap up and try to keep a little bit moving. But I mean, I was there with you guys. I mean, it was a good experience and we had a lot of fun. I mean, I did.
and we were all laughing and, you know, we were soaking
and
wet. And
you did try
it's
for
just,
a really long time to get that fire going, but I mean, the rain just kept drizzling, and it wasn't even proper. It wasn't like deluge. Like, it wasn't a lot of rain, but it just a consistent drizzle, wasn't it?
drizzle,
fire
wet ground,
was just
muddy.
not going to happen.
No. And that's the thing. Not every shoot works.
Yeah.
You have an idea in your head, but goodness me, if you don't pivot, then
But we adapted, didn't we? Well,
absolutely, yeah.
And quite a beautiful shoot from it as well.
I'm happy with the way it came out. It wasn't what the vision was.
Sure.
And something we've been working on creative a lot recently, trying to bring in a new member of the team who helps me focus on creative. And you start to think, well, what is, you know? And at one point he said, there was a shoot that we did, which again went sideways. And he said, but you did all this planning, and this is how it should have worked, but it didn't work out like that. Why do the planning if, you know, we're saying here, not every shoot goes, more often than not, you pivot. Why plan? And I think the answer I came up with for him was, we knew where we were going and we had a path. So at least then we had an end goal in sight and we could, change one thing or change something else to make it work.
Yeah.
But we weren't just going out there with every possibility in front of us and not knowing what the overall direction was going to be, even if it changed.
Yeah.
So I think that's important.
Yeah, and if
goal.
you have that plan, it just makes the whole production run so much more smoothly. Like, especially if you're working with models, actors, other creatives that are coming into to your project.
More and more where the budget's there and
Yeah.
the talent have time to prepare and we have control of the locations. It does go according to plan, but not always, and that's
Not
fine. You have to
always.
embrace it, it's fine.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting thing for me working with actors, getting to do things, is seeing how everyone responds to what is happening on screen. So when it is an emotional scene, and we're doing more narrative-based things now, seeing how everyone else watching in another room, where they're not sitting there, and it's not a production for that, it's actually on screen, they get choked up, or they think, oh my God, we did something with an elderly gentleman who's being defrauded. And he's having a phone call and he's realizing all of his life savings gone.
Yeah.
And he acted it. But a couple of takes we did, and gradually we got into the place where it felt like he was having the trouble breathing and getting into a little bit of a panic attack, and it's building to that point of realization and in his face. And the makeup artist and the stylist were in the other room, and they sort of went in and saw them. They were just like, oh God, it's so sad.
Yeah.
But everyone knows it's not real.
It's amazing, isn't
Draw
it?
them,
Yeah. This is what we talk about in acting a lot as well, is that even though you yourself know that a situation, you know, isn't real, that it's not happening, like, your body doesn't know that. So again, like, coming back to meisner, with your given set of circumstances, like, you can be in a you can be doing a scene, and even though your brain knows this isn't true, you're still working from these given set of circumstances, from this terrible situation. Your body doesn't know the difference, only your mind does, but your body doesn't, so you still have the same physical reactions. And
Do you have trouble letting that go, or does it stay with you?
I think the work itself doesn't stay with me, no, but the energy of like the day does. So it can take a while to come down from this sort of like everyone's energy being in one room and being quite high and being like not tense, but like on a level of we want to get this right and we want to do it well, and there's a lot of it. That's a lot of energy to balance out. So that can take a little like at the end of the day. I'm weirdly surprised actually that I'm often quite hyped at the end of the of the rolling day.
You could do another now.
It's like let's go, let's do it again, let's do more. Yeah. So yeah, I think I literally like just ending shoots like on another wave of like, and then I come home and I'm like, whoa.
Any questions that you have been marinating?
Ooh, what got you into guitar playing? Is that something you did like from like early age and that carried you through to teaching, or?
I went to secondary school and it was an option. So there was guitar teaching. My dad had played when he was younger, so the option for lessons came up and I took it, and then my dad and my brother started playing as well.
Yeah.
And just gradually got into it over the course of, like 5 years at secondary school, and then did a few little performances here and there. Got really into some really particular kinds of acoustic guitar. Went and had some lessons with some very inspirational people, and then went to Academy of Contemporary Music to study guitar. Did Young Guitarist of the Year in, God, I can't remember what year it was, when I was young. And that was interesting. That's kind of what got me into it. And then I played for years, toured around, did Edinburgh Fringe Festival, comedy act with a guy called Ricky. And he's a very funny guy, vocalist. I play the guitar effectively mute because I often didn't have a microphone, so it became this Penn and Teller kind of vibe with it. And then 2010-ish, I've been filming myself for years to put onto YouTube, because it was a very visual style of playing, and that's what got me into filmmaking, because I needed to film myself at gigs and put together little demo packs, do YouTube videos. Gradually then that progresses, and then this all got out of hand, and we're filming
out
stuff.
Out of hand, look at this.
It just snowballed, and I never thought right at the beginning, when I first bought a camera to film myself to put onto YouTube, there will be a studio and a massive crane on a camera car and all of this stuff. It just doesn't occur to you.
Amazing vans, all of your like branding, like sneakily but beautifully placed.
Like, subtle.
Yeah,
It's all a ladder.
Oh, it's all a ladder, and you never know where that ladder is going to take you. It might actually split off into different directions.
Complete tangent. You meet people.
Yeah.
They will suggest something. You'll see something. The mentors that you've had have probably developed you in a way which you wouldn't have otherwise seen. Thank you very much for coming in, having a non-caffeinated beverage on the Cove. Yeah, finish your cake. You're not allowed to leave until you do. Thank you for bringing the cake.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. And I can't wait for our next shoot, because I'm sure there's going to be something, and the cogs are turning.
I've stuffed my face and now I can't talk. Sorry, Ben.
You know how at the beginning of like any podcast thing, there's always a moment from in the middle that they cut in for the interest.
This will be it. Yeah, my little hamster poop. Thanks, Joe.
That was a fun conversation. Thank you.